Hi and welcome to the Global Travel Planner Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Collins, who with my expert guests takes you on a journey to destinations around the globe, providing itinerary ideas, practical tips and more to help you plan your next travel adventure. Hi and welcome to episode 3 of the Global Travel Planner Podcast. In this podcast, it is actually part 2 of our New Zealand travel adventure. With part 1 was the previous episode to this one, where we talked about our 5-day road trip around North Island, New Zealand. In this episode, we're going to be sharing our itinerary and our tips and experiences from our recent trip around South Island, New Zealand. So we spent about 9 days on a road trip through South Island, though I will say I was actually in New Zealand altogether for nearly 30 days or over 30 days, because I was actually house sitting in Christchurch. So I'm not going to talk much about this in this episode, because I will do another episode potentially in a few months about house sitting and actually talking about things that we did in and around Christchurch. So I'll say that after the first 5 days in North Island, I actually flew down to Christchurch and Doug flew back to Brisbane. So after I spent about 2.5 weeks house sitting, which it was absolutely wonderful, beautiful dog, wonderful house and absolutely amazing people. But after that, Doug joined me, flew over from Brisbane so that we could start our South Island road trip adventure.
Yeah, I flew in to join you from the flight from Brisbane. A bit delayed, unfortunately, so I didn't actually get to you until the early hours of the morning, did I?
That's true. I think it was after 1 o'clock, I think, in the morning before you arrived. So now our first day of our trip was actually, it wasn't going on the road, it wasn't driving. We actually had booked the Transalpine Express. So we took the Transalpine Express return from Christchurch to Greymouth.
Yeah, and I mean, the Transalpine's known as one of the best rail journeys in the world, actually.
Oh, yeah,
it's
stunning.
a very popular one, yes, yeah. And one I've actually had an eye on for quite a while, to be fair.
Absolutely. So kind of a few tips if you are considering taking the Transalpine is you have to be there 30 minutes before anyway to exchange your voucher to get the tickets.
Both tickets and the return journey.
That's right. They gave us a return ticket as well. We took some cash with us because we had heard that sometimes the machine doesn't work to actually, if you want to buy anything from the shop. And they actually did that during the journey, didn't they?
Yes, yeah. The train crew themselves are absolutely fantastic as well. And they explained to everybody in the shop that, you know, sometimes you might have to come back later and get something because it can't connect.
Yeah. So we did take some cash, so that's worth considering. Yeah. But we also took some food and drink anyway, because obviously we were on the train for quite a long time. And I guess actually we should probably say that this is quite a long train journey, as in it's 5 hours each way from Christchurch to Greymouth. It's 233 kilometres. We left at 8:15 in the morning and we arrived back at 7 p.m. that night. So I say it's a long day out.
It is. There's 7 train stops on the way.
Yeah.
7 on the way back if you're including the first and the last stations. And it's just amazing.
Beautiful.
All the way there. My personal opinion was from Christchurch, you get slightly better views on the right-hand side of the train on the way to Greymouth, and then obviously on the left. On the way back. But obviously there's nice views both sides. And
there is a viewing car, so just wrap up warmly if you're there in the winter. Obviously we were there in the autumn and it was still cold, so you need to put it's open, so you need to have your jacket and hat and gloves or whatever on.
That's it. And it's not open the entire length of the service. They close it when they're going through the long tunnels, and they do make so many announcements as well to keep you fully up to date with what's happening. Little tip is don't rush there as soon as they say it's open, because it gets crowded. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was really full. Also, there are earphones provided, so you can listen to a commentary along the way about the history of the area and really interesting information. And that's available in English and in Chinese, Mandarin. Yeah, so it was really, really good to listen to that. So so you can kind of dip in and it shows you on like the screen. I think it went green when there was commentary, so you could kind of dip in and listen to that. That's it. The bits we missed on the way out, we caught on the way back.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So obviously, like some of the amazing scenery as you go through Arthur's Pass. You stop off, say, some of the stations that you stay on along the way. A lot of people did get off at Arthur's Pass, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Yeah, you stayed there for quite a few minutes. I think over about 7 to 10 minutes, something like that. And a lot of people, myself included, had the photo taken next to the train station sign that says Arthur's Pass.
Yeah. So I do want to say a special shout out to some of the staff that were absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's where the train crews, the cafe staff, 2 ladies and a gentleman, they're absolutely, they couldn't do enough to help, and all with a big smile on their faces.
Yeah, so Tina, Carolyn and Rajosh, thank you so much for making the trip absolutely so memorable for us.
Yeah.
So that was our first day. So obviously it was an early get up because Doug hadn't arrived until after midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. We just picked up an Uber, got an Uber to the train station. And then when we arrived back, there's plenty of taxis or Ubers available in Christchurch. So it took us back home. So that wrapped up our first day. So on day 2, we were driving from Christchurch down to Aoraki, Mount Cook. Now, we'd hired a car and we went out to the airport to pick it up, but we didn't pick it up until later morning, mainly because we'd had a very busy day the day before. So we wanted to have a little bit more of a relaxing morning. And also it kind of timed with when we're going to be dropping off the car in Queenstown on the following Tuesday, when we actually were going to be flying back to Brisbane. So we picked up the car. We had organised an SUV, which is usually the sort of car that we choose. We just find that's more comfortable for driving really all around the world. And I guess because that's what we have at home as well, so we're used with it. So the drive that day, I'll say it took us 5 hours to get from Christchurch to Mount Cook, Aoraki, to our accommodation for the evening. The weather was good. You can do it in less time, but we spent a lot of time looking at the scenery and enjoying.
How many times did we stop?
Yeah, we stopped a lot. And so really the first place you probably will stop off, we'd recommend stopping off on it, is in Fairlie. We went to the Fairlie Bakery, which is, I think, world famous for the pies. And then we didn't buy any pies, which is just ridiculous. And I kick myself now because I don't know why we didn't, but I think we ended up buying some sweet things, didn't we?
Yeah.
So the next time we'll be in Fairlie, we will be definitely buying some pies because they are highly recommended. But yeah, we stopped off there and then we drove past Lake Tekapo, where we stopped and took some photos there. Again, beautiful scenery. Before we went on to Lake Pukaki, where we stopped off at the information centre.
Yep.
There's a stone church where you can take beautiful photos, and there was lots of people taking photos, weren't there?
Yeah, certainly was. And you don't know where to stand. It's just beauty.
Oh,
360
absolutely.
degrees. It's hard to do it justice in photos and videos.
Absolutely.
So the good advice is to step back and actually have a look.
Oh yeah, and just enjoy it. That was a lovely car drive that day.
Yeah.
It was really lovely. We enjoyed that, didn't we?
We did, and we take it slowly. We let probably go a little bit too slow. We let people pass us. So the drive took us over 5 hours.
Yeah.
If we hadn't stopped, I think it was about 3 hours 30.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we stopped so many times.
So we'd booked accommodation actually quite late, and we were very, very lucky because we know that actually staying at Mount Cook Village is gets booked up ahead of time. So once we'd checked in, which we checked in, we had a really nice room, and I'll put a link to accommodation. We decided, because we hadn't brought anything to eat with us, so we went up to the Heritage Hotel, where we had a cheese platter, and Doug had a salmon platter.
Oh, salmon platter was just unbelievable. Just so many flavours out of this world.
I can't tell you how lovely it was, because it was cold outside. There was snow. We could see snow on the mountains. There was a fire going. Just absolutely fantastic. So atmospheric, wasn't it?
It was. All I could do was to stay awake. That
Very relaxing. Very, very relaxing. And that was really a good job, because in day 3, we were going to be tackling, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this, and obviously it depended on the weather, but we were going to do the Hooker Valley track. So on day 3, we got up quite nice and early, and the sun was out.
It was a beautiful morning.
Beautiful, beautiful day, blue sky. So we did check to see if the Hooker Valley track was open, because I think it had been closed the day before, because if it gets windy, because of the swing bridges, which I'll talk about in a second, they will close the track. So I think we got there about 9:30. We went to the car park.
Yeah, we parked at the car park, which was pretty empty when we got there.
It was, yeah.
And and then we sort of set out, and I remember the first few corners we just kept stopping. Just amazed by the beauty initially, and I thought, actually we better get walking.
Yeah, and actually it just got more and more and more spectacular. And honestly, I've travelled so many amazing places throughout the world, but I'm never going to forget that. I'm never, ever going to forget that walk. It was just so beautiful. So I'll just say what I was wearing as well, because it was quite chilly. So, I had boots on, black walking boots on, I had leggings on and layers, and then I had my excellent 5-in-1 coat, which is brilliant, which I bought recently, gloves, hat, and obviously we took water bottles with us, had a little backpack. So you have to obviously dress for the conditions, and I would check all that. There's an information centre at the
car park.
in the car park and information centre, so you can check what it is that you need. If you're not an experienced hiker, which I'm not, generally I will not hike anywhere in the world. It's not something I generally enjoy doing, but I have to say this was spectacular. So if you're not somebody who enjoys hiking and think, if the weather's good, go and do it.
Yeah, and it's probably about 50% totally flat and about 50% with some steps and inclines. But the quality of the path is excellent.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, excellent. Make sure you take your phone, take plenty of pictures. You take a battery pack if you need to charge it, because believe me, you will be taking lots of photos and videos.
You really will.
So, I will just say it took us, it takes between 3 and 4 hours, I think, is what they kind of recommend to do that. And it took us about that time, didn't it?
Yeah, it took us all. We left at 9:25 and we arrived at the glacier and the rest areas for about 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had probably 20 minutes, half an hour there, didn't we?
Yeah, so on the way, I'm going to say that you have to walk over 3 swing bridges. Now, I'm not a fan of heights at all, so I was a little bit nervous about crossing these bridges. So to be honest, I just waited until it was less busy. Now, because we went earlier on in the day, it was not as busy as when we walked back. And then there was a lot of people walking towards us, going in the opposite direction, because in the car park was just about full, wasn't it?
It was when we got back.
Yeah. So we went earlier on in the day, and I'd recommend that. So there's not as many people crossing the bridges. Obviously, when we came back, there were more people crossing the bridges. But I just waited, because there is a limit on the amount of people that can be on them. I just waited until there was less people, and I just kind of walked straight across. I actually got really gutsy on the way back, and that I did a little video from one of the bridges. But again, if you're not sure about heights, so my daughter was a bit concerned I wouldn't manage it because she'd done it the week before because of the swing bridges. But honestly, it was totally worth it.
It was, yeah. When we got to the lake, it's a glacier lake, and there's some little mini icebergs there as well.
It was stunning, absolutely stunning.
And the sun was shining. It was just magical.
Honestly, I will share lots of photos in the show notes, but believe me, it's definitely something you want to do.
It is. And the other thing, if you take some snacks or your drinks with you, there's a couple of picnic tables and things just by the side of the lake if you want to rest when you get there.
Absolutely, which a lot of people do. And there are toilets as well along the way, just one set of toilets. Yeah. I think was there 2 toilets together. Yeah, but so there are toilets available on the route as you walk through. And we did get a lot of people asking us as we walk, and then we did the same actually. So how far is it to the end? How far is it to the end? So it's not particularly well signposted in terms of figuring out where you are, how long you've got to get to the destination. But you have got 3 swing bridges. That's the thing to say.
It's probably about 15 minutes after the 3rd swing bridge. 15, 20 minutes. Again, depending how often you stop.
Yeah, exactly. But highly recommend it. So we got back to the car sort of 1-ish, which was perfect, which is when we'll talk about now, because we didn't stay in the area for that night as well. We kind of travelled on. Okay, so we left Mount Kukaraki and went to back down to Lake Pukaki just to take some more photos, and also just ask them where we could get petrol, because we were starting to need some by that point.
Yeah.
So we drove to Twizel, where we filled up the car with petrol, and then we did the about 2-hour drive through the Lindis Pass to get down to Wanaka. So we stayed in Wanaka that evening. So we got booked into our accommodation, and then we actually went in to explore a little bit of Wanaka, and we had dinner there that night, and then kind of planned what we were going to do the next day. The next morning, day 4, we checked out of the Wanaka Springs Hotel where we were staying and headed down into Wanaka itself for breakfast. Now, there's lots and lots of places to choose from for breakfast, and we thoroughly enjoyed. We had a really good breakfast in the bakery.
Very nice.
Probably one of the best I've actually ever had. It was really good, and I thought Australia was good at breakfast, but New Zealand, wow, you do amazing breakfast too. So at that point, the weather was starting to turn. So we decided we want to get some pictures of the Wanaka tree, which is very, very famous throughout the world. So we headed down there. There's a free car park, and it's about a 2-minute walk to actually go and take pictures of the tree. Unfortunately, the weather was starting to really become inclement, so we had a lot of started to really heavily rain. So now the night before, we'd been recommended to a winery in Wanaka called Maud Winery. So we decided to head up there. So it was just before 12 o'clock, I think, by the time we got up there. Yeah. And I have to say, excellent. Absolutely excellent. I could have stayed there all day. In fact, I think we were there for a good 2.5 hours.
Quite a few hours. You didn't book. We just turned up, and then the guy was himself being helpful.
Oh,
really
fantastic.
Was.
Yeah, fantastic. So I did the wine tasting. Doug doesn't drink, so I did the wine tasting. We did try some of the snacks, which was fantastic. The Brussels sprouts were fantastic.
And the cheese board.
And we had the cheese board as well. The wine tasting was excellent. I did come away with a few bottles of wine, which I enjoyed over the next few nights. So after that, obviously, I will just mention that I wasn't driving. Doug was doing the driving. So the next, obviously, that afternoon, we were driving to Queenstown. So that drive took about an hour.
About an hour, yeah. So you've got to go slowly because as you're dropping down into Queenstown, there's lots of hairpin bends. So you've got to take your time. You've got to be patient.
And you go over the Crown Range Road from Wanaka to Queenstown. It was stunning, but those hairpin bends as you're going down into Queenstown are something else, I have to tell you. We didn't go back up them after that.
No, we didn't.
We actually stayed in Queenstown for the next few days. So so we stayed in Queenstown, which is actually outside of the main town. But we found it really easy. I will just say really, really easy to get into Queenstown.
It was quite close to the airport as well. And right outside the hotel is a bus stop, which we use frequently to take into the town.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the next few days we were based in Queenstown. So we'll talk you through. There's so much to do in Queenstown. It really is the adventure capital of the world. So you have just got so many choices. Now, I will say... So I will talk through what we did day 5, 6, 7, and 8. We actually flew back to Brisbane on day 9. But I will say the weather did turn at the weekend. So we were very lucky. And I think this is a really valid point to make. And I know I was listening to somebody else saying this recently, is that, if the weather's good, take advantage of it because it can change very, very rapidly.
It certainly can.
I will just say, actually, the accommodation is in Frankton, which is a suburb of Queenstown. But say really close to the airport and really easy to get into Queenstown Centre itself. So the next day we did pop to Pack and Save, which is very close to the hotel, and we just stocked up on drinks and some snacks and some food because the hotel had like a little kitchen, so we could prepare breakfast and some meals, obviously to save money. If that's what you need to do, that's a perfect option. So that day we decided to, because again it was a beautiful, beautiful day, we're very lucky, we decided to drive to Glenorchy, which was an hour. Doug did the driving there and back. Yeah,
about an hour's drive each way. Again, took it really slowly to try and take in some of the waterfall scenery.
Views, honestly, were just beautiful. And obviously we had to have our photos taken next to the famous red shed in Glenorchy.
Photos,
millions of photos.
Yeah.
And there was lots of other people there as well doing the same.
There was, and there's a little pier walk out there as well and behind the shed as well, so you can get a good view of the lake, which is Lake Wakatipu.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable. But actually, after visiting the shed, me being a hot chocolate fiend, we also went and had a drink because it was rather cold as well. The hot and sunny, had hot chocolate in a little cafe called the Trading Post.
That's it. That was lovely. So we relaxed and just enjoyed the atmosphere, the beauty around us. You had hot chocolate, had my chai, and it got busier again as the morning went on. But it was lovely.
That's it. And then on the way back, we stopped off some views at the Wilson Bay. It's called Bennett's Bluff Viewpoint.
Yeah,
so you have to put the car park, you walk up and you're high up and you got views both ways of the lake.
Yeah, so again, stunning views. So we drove back actually to accommodation and we got the bus into Queenstown.
We did. And the bus driver was incredibly helpful. We should have taken his name, but he gave us the best ways to sort of save money for the both of us, for return tickets, how many days did you want, and we got the big bus pass.
Yeah, we did. So we bought that from him. You have to top that up with cash.
In multiples of $5.
Yes, so which we did a couple of times. But we thought because trying to park in Queenstown itself is not that easy. It was just so much easier. Drive back to the hotel, leave the car, jump on the bus into Queenstown. And we had a lovely walk around the shops. We went to the botanical gardens. Just really enjoyed the views because, again, it was lots of people were sitting enjoying the views, weren't there?
The city was about 20 minutes from the accommodation on the bus into the town.
Yeah. So I think that was, we knew we were going to have a busy day the next day. So I will talk about that in a second. But I would recommend if it's a beautiful day, head out to Glenorchy because it's a lovely drive and it's not very far away. So day 6, we had booked a coach to Milford Sound. Unfortunately, the weather was pretty appalling and it rained for most of the day, which unfortunately meant when we got to Milford Sound, we didn't see a massive amount of the beauty of the area. However, I will say we had a lot of fun.
We did. And I think everybody else did on the coach as well. There was no sort of sad faces, and the driver or drivers.
Yeah, we had the best drivers. So big shout out to Paul and Jaden, who were absolutely amazing, really fantastic. Paul told us so many, just such interesting stories along the way on the drive, and Jaden was fantastic as well. So because I'm going to say we spent about 9 hours on that coach that day, so it's a long trip. So we had to get there for 7 a.m. in the morning. I think we got dropped off around about 7 p.m. We were lucky because they dropped us off at Frankton bus station, so we were able to catch a bus back to the hotel.
That's right. Before we stopped off at TNO again on the way back, they encouraged anybody who any specific stopping points they wanted, and I had a word with the driver, and he says, "Well, we're passing Frankton bus station," so dropped us off there. We were the first drop-offs actually. Yeah,
so that was perfect. So that's kind of a quick overview of the day. So where did we go? Well, we stopped off at TNO and we stopped off there for a cup of coffee and a bit of cake, toilet break, before then heading on the Milford Sound Road. So there was a few stop-offs on that road, and my favourite, I have to say, was to see the Kia, which is a mountain parrot in New Zealand. They're big, they're very naughty, but they're amazing. So we were really lucky. They're really notorious for ripping things off cars and stealing things. But they were really pretty. They came right up to you, so they were amazing. So you could take some really fantastic photos. They say it was still pouring with rain, but hey, it was fine. So we got to Milford Town to actually catch the boat, and so we had to hang around for about half an hour or so.
At the visitor centre.
Yeah. So the boat ride itself was really nice, up and down Milford Sound. As I say, we didn't see a lot of the beauty that it's really famous for, but we did see some animals along the way, which was really cool.
That's right, we saw some tiny penguins.
We saw the tiniest penguins. They were so cute, really, really tiny penguins. And also, one of the things, I guess I should say, the advantage of when it does rain at Milford Sound is you see so many thousands of waterfalls everywhere.
Grief, yeah.
Absolutely everywhere. And we did see a seal. So it was nice. It was a really nice journey. It wasn't too rough because you get a bit seasick.
It got a bit choppy at the end of the lake where the boat turns or crosses the lake and the mouth of the Tasman Sea there. It went a bit bouncy then, so I had to sort of stay in my seat and sort of keep watching the horizon, as they say.
Yeah, that the top of the inlet, I guess it is. I don't know if it's a lake, but the inlet. So
I should point out, I'm not the best on coaches as well, but I was lucky enough to be able to sit right at the front as well.
We got there early in the morning, so Doug could get at the front of the coach, which worked out really well for him. So if you're a little bit car sick or boat sick, I mean, Doug did really well that day. You were fine.
That's right. Don't let it stop you doing anything. I took some tablets and away we go.
So the meal on the boat as well was excellent. It was a really good buffet.
It was a hot buffet, yes, and there's enough for everyone.
Oh, there was loads. It was really good food. Actually, it was really tasty food. And there was access to teas and coffees.
Yeah, how many cups of tea did we have?
About 25. And then obviously the cruise takes you back to where you get on the boat. What do you call it? Where the boats are.
Harbour.
The harbour, that's it. Couldn't think of the word. Yeah, at the harbour bit, you get off. And then we just got straight onto the coach and drove back. So that was it was a big day, full day, but it was really good. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
We really did, yes. I mean, with the driver Paul telling the stories along the way and on the way back, he so engaging as well. It didn't seem like 9 hours. It
didn't.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that. I have to say, next time I'm going to definitely try and do one of the scenic flights. That's on my list of would absolutely love to do. And I know a lot of the locals have said that Doubtful Sound is fabulous to go to. So hopefully we'll get there next time. So day 7, the weather really was turning very unpleasant. So we didn't do a huge amount that day, but we decided that we'd get the bus into Queenstown because I was really desperate to try a Ferg burger.
Yeah, that's at the Ferg. And I had the Ferg pie the day before.
You did, and you really enjoyed it. So there was a huge queue, which I think is always the case at the Ferg burger because it's so popular. very Instagram famous, but also very, very tasty. So I'd highly recommend that you go. So we actually just bought one and we shared it, didn't we?
We did indeed, yeah.
But it was lovely. Highly recommend it. Then we just had a little bit of a stroll around Queenstown. Now, there is lots of things to do. There are lots of things to do, actually, when it's raining, because there's bowling, there's cinema, there's lots of indoor activities that you can do. Yeah, you can take the gondola up to the top, which it was the weather wasn't good enough to do that. The views weren't great.
It was open, though.
But it was open and it was going, yeah. So actually, if it does rain, there are things to do in Queenstown, so don't despair. So that was just left us with our last day, our last full day, which was going to be day 8 in Queenstown. So that day, the sun came back out again.
It did.
So we decided to head to Arrowtown.
Arrowtown, it really was. And had a walk around the Chinatown there.
Yeah.
And look at the history there. So much to read. And it was all brand new to us, wasn't it? So it was very much of an eye-opening experience.
So it built up around the kind of the gold rush.
That's right. That's right.
So it's a really interesting historic place to go and visit. Apparently it's lovely in the autumn because there's an avenue of trees that are very famous there. So we spent a couple of hours walking around. We had some breakfast there. Had a walk around. Oh yes, and then who wanted to take you've got to think about going to places with the name Arthur in it.
I don't know why. I have no idea why. But we've done Arthur's Point near Queenstown, Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, in Scotland. Yeah. I walked up to that one, and obviously Arthur's Pass on the Transalpine Railway.
Yeah.
Don't know why. I don't know where's next, but it just seemed to happen.
So we had to go and have a photo taken at the sign for Arthur's Point. So we did that. So basically, that was really as much as we got up to on day 8. We did take the car that day, obviously, but you can get the bus to Arrowtown, but we decided to drive, didn't we?
So we took it and we stopped by a couple of other points, just have a quick look around, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. So then that was it. So the next day, which was day 9, we flew back to Brisbane. As I say, we were very close to the airport, so we dropped the car off. No issues there. We did fill it up with petrol before we dropped it off. There's a few to choose from.
Yeah.
Got to the airport and checked in, and that was it. So that was the end of our New Zealand adventure. So we hope you've enjoyed these 2 episodes where we've kind of talked a little bit about what itinerary involved. There are articles on the website with lots of information about our itineraries and our thoughts about our trip to New Zealand. And lots more will be coming onto the website. So you can find those linked in the show notes to this episode, which is at tracystravelsintown.com/episode 3. As I say, if you haven't listened to episode 2, I would listen to that one first, because that is our North Island 5-day road trip itinerary. But I think that's it for this episode.
I think so, yeah.
So that just leaves me to say happy global travel planning.